What is going on, people? I'm gonna go ahead and try to summarize here the Paladin fight that we got into not too long ago. I think this was 2 days ago. So yeah, I recorded about 2 hours of it, and I'm gonna try here to tone it down to maybe like 11-12 minutes or so. But here we go. It's gonna be right at the beginning, that way you see the complete madness that is Paladin sometimes, because sometimes you might have like 10 castles in total. But when you're in a kingdom like we are, which is full of war guilds, you know that there's going to be a fight. So essentially the beginning is very important, because essentially the beginning, if you do it right, will give you 5 minutes of uninterrupted time, which is huge. So you see a lot of people just like soloing in and trying to get reinforced quickly. Now, my job in this whole thing was that whenever we took it, I was supposed to be the one that sped everybody very quickly. So that was very important, because once you get in there and once you take it, that is 5 minutes, like I said. So it's super important. So everybody's trying to take it right now, and there we go. We finally are in, and I'm gonna try to speed it up as quickly as I can using the 75% boots. And Solid Joker is in there. I'm loving it, is in there, and looks like we finally got it. And that means that we won the first 5 minutes. And that actually turned out to be very important in the end. So now that we secure it, because I mean you can solo it now, but you probably will lose your leader. Now everybody pretty much has to rally it in order to have a hope of actually kicking us out. And okay, so let me lay it out for you guys in order so you can get a better picture of what's going on. So essentially this was BTA family versus Sugar family. In the Sugar side of things, you had SGB, you had SGM, DG1, HMF, and I did see at least one member of CNA going over to help them fill. But obviously it wasn't our whole guild, so I don't know if that really counts or not. On our side, you had K, of course, you had BTA, you had C1W, and then there was a guild here that was KDM. Now, the thing about them is that we didn't really have any sort of communications with them. We didn't know when they were launching, we didn't know what they were sending, but as things went on, it seemed like they were actually helping us. So I'm not really sure if they were helping us or they were just against Sugar family, but at the end of the day, it did definitely help us out. So I guess you can say it was 4-on-4 in a way, but for the most part it was 4 versus the 3. Of course, during this whole thing it did kind of fluctuate, because HMF started rallying at the beginning, but then during like midway they weren't rallying, and then DG1 came into the fray like midway, and then HMF came back. So I don't know, that was kind of confusing as to why they weren't just there since the beginning or the whole time. But either way, this Paladin fight was actually really fun. Like, and I know I've said before that Paladin is probably the worst event, and I still feel that way, because right after this Paladin fight there was a Paladin fight that had like 20 castles in total. Like, yeah. So yeah, it can be super boring, or if you're in a competitive kingdom, it can be really good. Because for instance, our kingdom was pretty much 90% of everybody that was here. So outside of our kingdom, this would have been a super boring Paladin fight. But regardless of all of that, let's just talk strategy, right? Because a lot of people might not know exactly what the strategy is when it comes to fights like this. Of course, in a bigger scale like Emperor or whatnot, but since this is a smaller scale, let me just explain to you guys how essentially this all works. So it's pretty much a numbers game, right? If you go in here with one guild, you're going to lose. Essentially what you want to do is you want to pick one guy to push, just one. You want to make sure that this one person is going to be the one that's going to get all the time inside the fort. And if they are not the one inside the fort and you are with them, you want to make sure that you leave the fort, have them solo it, and get reinforced in order to get the added time. Essentially how you go about this is if you're with somebody that you're pushing, you set a rally, and whenever that person is in there and they get hit out, you are basically in the process of just taking everybody else out. So technically speaking, the best way to do this is with 4 guilds. You have the guild that's going to be pushing, and then each of the other 3 guilds is going to have infantry, cavalry, and range rally to make sure that they try to counter as many things as you can. Now, of course, some things might break down, you might not have as many guilds, etc. But that is essentially what you want to have. And one of the things that I noticed that they did not do so well on their end is that eventually Sugar Bane was the one that accumulated the most time for them. Although I do not think that that was the original plan for them to push Sugar Bane, because at the beginning it didn't really seem like he's the one that wanted to get all the time. But either way, I think maybe they realized midway through that he was the only one that could probably get as much time as needed in order to win. But after Sugar Bane you know, started to rack up some decent time in the fort, I noticed that when like somebody from HMF or like another Sugar Guild would hit us out, they wouldn't necessarily give up the fort to Sugar Bane right away, which essentially ate up a lot of time that they could have possibly gotten if Sugar Bane solos it and gets reinforced right away. So it was definitely kind of curious. But regardless of all of that, like, if you guys have been seeing in the background, like, all the fighting that has been going on, a lot of times you can get super lucky and you can hit like all cavalry against their all infantry and get like really good numbers, or when you're unfortunate, you can hit, you know, all range against all infantry and you're super hurt. So the good thing for us is that we only run into that issue, I think maybe once, maybe twice, where it really hurt us. So yeah, I think we were a little luckier on that. There's also something that I wanted to point out, the Paladin points, because every time I believe you kill T4 troops, you actually get some points. And everything is like super expensive except maybe the food. Like, none of it is really worth it except the food. So I was kind of disappointed in that. But yeah, on that one, Slayer Hero sped up his range march into our infantry fort, which I was so confused. I was like, why would you speed a range rally into an infantry only fort? I don't know, maybe they thought that we would let it go as soon as they launched. I'm not really sure what it was, but yeah, either way, what I ended up taking from this is that most of the time when you're in this fort and somebody launches on you, you better leave, because you don't know exactly what they're going to be sending. And I'm thinking that that's what Slayer Hero was banking on, because we were all infantry, and if somebody launches and speeds, they're more than likely, you would think, they're cavalry. So he maybe was in the thinking that we were going to go ahead and you know, like, leave it. But we were actually watching him, and we saw that he only really changed gear like a couple of seconds before he launched. So that way we had a good idea that once he switched over to range gear, not only was A, he was going to launch, but B, it was a range rally. It was easy to just stay in the fort. But regardless of all of that, man, like, it was a really fun quote unquote war. And there is one thing that I wanted to mention, right? Because obviously this was two families against each other, BTA, Sugar family, and we were just sending a bunch of rallies at each other, etc. But at the end of the day, like, once it was all over and everything, I did notice that when you go over to the Kingdom chat and all that, there was nobody talking trash, there was nobody like being mean and stuff like that. And that's something that I really would wish that the community was more like. But then you have a lot of these toxic guilds that they just want to talk trash the whole time. And it's actually refreshing when you can have a war like this and not get to a personal level. Like, maybe it's just because I do YouTube and all that, but usually things just end up in like this personal level for whatever reason. So it was so refreshing to just go attack people, have them attack you, and not have like these like these serious feelings, hurt and butt hurt and all that. Like, it was a really fun war, and win or lose, man, like, it was fun regardless. And that's why we play the game, right? To have some fun. But yeah, this is coming down to the last couple of minutes, and I believe it was under 5 minutes now. So really, if you were not rallying already, you weren't gonna get off a rally anymore. So C1W had the fort at this time, so we figured we'll go ahead and launch our rally in there to try and rack up as many points as we can, because we already knew that it was like super close as it is. So we needed every single second that we can make count. And yeah, so we went ahead and took it, and Slayer Hero seemed to be the only one that could actually kick us out from here. Now the only thing is, we didn't really know what he had, so I don't know if he was going to be sending cav, range, infantry. I don't know, but we definitely needed every single second that we could. And there you go, you saw his gear change. That is obviously infantry. So we were like, okay, yeah, we might as well take it and see, you know, what happens. But I mean, look, Slayer Hero, your freaking infantry gear is mwah, so freaking amazing looking. But either way, they hit us out. Sugar Bane is actually able to take it over, and now you have two of the big titans here, Ace and Sugar, pretty much hitting each other off the base. And we're just trying to keep Sugar Bane out of getting these 2 extra minutes here at the end. But it's like the last few minutes, nobody else can rally anymore, so it's all a solo fight at this point. Now Sugar Bane is able to get in there and get reinforcements right there. So yeah, I mean, solos at this point is not really gonna help us. So yeah, at this point I was like, damn, they're gonna go ahead and try to get those last 2 minutes. Maybe the 2 minutes is gonna be the difference. And they're over here taunting like, hey, with the pug, right? They're like, yeah. And then watch this, boom, out of nowhere. I was like, wait, KDM was rallying? What? And here's where I was talking about that us, like, KDM was helping us, but it really wasn't really like helping us, because we sent a solo to try and take it at the end, and they stayed in there. So yeah, but yeah, there we go. Paladin, great job, BTA family. I tell you what, give it up to the Sugar family as well, because it was a great fight, and it was like down to the wire. It literally was like only a couple of minutes difference. So I'm gonna go ahead here and show you all how it looked, and go more into why I think we actually ended up winning. Because Sugar Bane obviously had like the gear and the research advantage and all that. I mean, I think he has mythic champions in each one, like each set mythic champions. So this was the rewards, and let me go ahead and show you guys exactly what the time looked like, because like I said, those 5 minutes at the beginning pretty much determined the whole thing. Like, I know there's more that goes into it, but like, look at this. 36 minutes to 33. Now if you look at the next people, Slayer Hero, One Who Knows, that's about 17 minutes that they stayed in there, and not Sugar Bane. Whereas you see the people that were helping us, 100%, Ace, etc., they were like under 3.5 minutes. So that big difference on SGB and HMF holding it instead of giving it up to Sugar Bane was probably the difference. And yeah, he was definitely a good sport and wished us a good fight and good win. So like I said, it was refreshing to have such a competitive fight and not have it turn into this like 5-year-old insults afterward. But yeah, see you guys later.